Hello, my name is Auld. I work at OfferUp. I'm a Python developer and I'm trying to learn Go, and I figured doing a lightning talk was an excellent way to do so. So I'll be talking about this library. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Gorm or Gorm. So it's an ORM. I'm pretty familiar with all those. Why should you use one? Because SQL is hard. When you've got a cool idea for an app, you just want to get it working, creating tables and writing queries is not what you want to spend your time doing. So it's a lot easier to get something working, and it's comfortable and familiar for most devs. A lot of people who are going to Go for, say, a microservice architecture are used to things like Django, Rails, SQL Alchemy, the Entity Framework, whatever Java uses. So it's very comfortable for a lot of people, and then you also don't have your devs like mucking around directly inside your database, which is probably not great. So these are just a few of the key features that I picked out. Full featured, almost. That's going to be important later. Auto migrations. This is really useful, especially when I said you're starting a new app. Your models might change a lot. You might realize you need a date time or something new, or you might want to change a data type. So having to do that yourself is kind of a pain. Gorm makes it pretty simple. Fully tested and developer friendly, which is great to hear. So this is basic usage up here. You just embed this Gorm model in your struct, and that will inform the library of what you need this as a model. Open a SQL collection. You do have to have an import here, one of the underscore imports of whatever SQL driver you're using. So it won't work if you just import Gorm. It's going to be confused about what database you're using. So we're using SQLite because we're professionals. And there's the auto migrate. So yeah, very scalable and very portable. So this is just some basic, CRUD stuff. Create, very simple, read, update. It makes your life very simple to do these kind of things. And then you can even abstract away some stuff a little bit easier than with like a raw SQL query. This does come at a cost, and this isn't unique to Gorm. Some queries that are generated by ORMs work great when you start, when you're handling thousands of connections and requests. You might lose some performance there, and who knows what the ORM is doing under the hood. So here are some of the more advanced features here. So you can set, when you have your nvarchar fields, you can set a size, auto increment if you just need to increase the number there. These are how you handle relationships. So it's smart enough to know that when you give it in a slice type there, that means you want some relationships. This is also a nice feature that I really like. So if you had some field that was maybe calculated, or you didn't want persisted on your model that you pass around, you don't want to store it in the database, you can use that tag there to get it to ignore it. So it won't create a column for it, it won't try to save it, it will just completely ignore it, which is very convenient. Advanced features, so transactions. If you are doing something you do not want, and an error occurs and you want to roll back, this is very convenient. I've only used ORMs to do stuff like this, so I don't even know how you would do it with raw SQL, but I imagine it's not as easy as that. So you can imagine if you had, you were handling payments, and something went wrong, you wouldn't want to save a payment in your database if, say, the Stripe API went down. You wouldn't want to save that record and either not get paid when the API came up because you stored a successful payment, or you wouldn't want to charge a customer if something went wrong on your end, so you just roll back the transaction, and it's like it never happened, just like magic. Connection pooling, this is a really, really simple way to do connection pooling without messing. At OfferUp, we use something called PG Bouncer, and it has this really strange file that you just plop down and hope that it does the right thing. So this is really great. And composite keys are good if you want to have something similar to a join table. So you could have a user and say a device. Like if you wanted to have a one-to-one relationship between a user and a device, you could have a table that would join those two things there. Now you can still make mistakes with Gorm. I learned this. This is one thing that I would say I would never, ever, ever use this library without tons of tests or a very, very strict code reviews. So say, for whatever reason, you inherited some legacy piece of code where the API required that when you pass the user to your delete user function, it should return an empty user. Whatever. Mistakes were made in the past. So you instead, you create your empty user to return, and it's late, and you ran out of Red Bull, and you passed in the wrong struct to delete. Who knows what that's going to do? That is going to delete every row in the table. That is kind of frightening. So hopefully you would catch that in your staging or development environment. I'm not sure what kind of, if you could actually make that happen at runtime. If somebody could fill out a form wrong or not put form validation and you send some, because it's not just uninitialized. You could fill out all the fields in that user except the primary key. So, but I'm assuming it does something. The SQL that it spits out will say delete from user where ID equals nothing. And SQL will helpfully interpret that to mean we must not want anything in this table anymore. Right? So that was my talk on Gorm. It is probably from my quick research that I did, probably the most popular ORM for Go, and I still think it has a little ways to go. I believe it works with a lot of reflection. So it will add a lot of compile time. And like the simple one endpoint REST thing I did, compilation was almost instant for just the like HTTP handler, and then when you add one of these models, it's noticeably longer for a 40-line example. So it does have some landmines, like deleting everything in your database. But if you need to get started very quickly, it's definitely a good tool. Questions, be gentle, please.
In your investigation, did you see, did you talk about testing? Or is it well interfaced? Did you look at how easy it is to mock up and test? It seems like it
Right. I didn't do write my own tests. The question was testing. How easy is it to mock? So that feature was they have all their own tests. They test all their own code. So for mocking DB, this one actually, it looks like it could be pretty simple because it's more similar to something like SQL Alchemy where you give it a model. It's not a method on the model. You're not calling user.save, you're calling db.save user.
Right.
So as long as the Gorm model struct is embedded in your struct, which you can make a test user, and then you can mock out the connection or just use SQLite for a test.
Is the structure like if someone create like user and then put your user like dot address and then address, of course it's like user with all the address or like user dot some relation.
Oh, so to do relations, you can do, like in code, you would do user.has1 belongs to. It's pretty, the library it's most similar to, I think, is SQL Alchemy. I don't know how many Python people. Sorry.
No more time. We got to take a break here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.